Captain Mar-Vell, a name just as likely to bring up thoughts of the Brie Larson movies, or even Shazam, as he is also known by the same name. But you know, when I was a young reader of comics, I was introduced to a different Captain Mar-Vell, and I learned of him through the Book of the Dead, as this figure rising from a grave. And he had been deceased for several years before I had picked up that comic book. I was never a real big fan of cosmic comic books, and it took me a long time to get over that bias, I guess you could say. So I'm almost embarrassed to admit it took me years to finally read The Death of Captain Mar-Vell, which was a graphic novel put out in early 1982. In fact, I only read it for the first time a few nights ago. And I'll tell you, when I started reading it, it was very late at night, and I thought, yeah, let me just get a taste of it. Let me just get a sense of what the style is, and then maybe I'll read it the next night or some other day. But I couldn't stop reading it, and I made it all the way to the end with heavy eyes and a heavy heart. It was written by Jim Starlin, and it is said that he wrote this as a form of therapy to deal with the passing of his own father. And after reading it, I can see that. This must be his magnum opus, his masterpiece, his masterwork. It must be. Because I can't see how something could top this. After just a few days of reading it, it's already one of the most memorable comic books I've ever read in my entire life. And tonight I feel it is my duty and responsibility to share this with you. This is the Pop Culture Cosmonaut, and this is The Death of Captain Mar-Vell. I was born Mar-Vell, a son of the Kree Empire. On Earth, my name fell victim to an alien tongue, and I became known as Mar-Vell, Captain Mar-Vell. The following is a journal of my life since I left Kreelar, my adventures, my victories, my mistakes. My hope in recording this mini autobiography is that it may prove of some use to those I leave behind. It all began on a Kree scout ship, which made an undetected landing back on Earth in 1967. The expedition was on a secret spy mission. Its assignment was to study the planet's defenses and populace. Earth was on a despotic Kree Empire's list of future planetary conquests. I was part of that scout ship's crew. I was a Kree warrior, a captain. I was slated to be the mission's chief field agent. Also among the ship's complement was one communications officer, Una. I loved this woman. But my love was doomed, for the ship's commander was a colonel, Jan Rog, whose hatred for me and lust for Una would prove our downfall. So I began my mission. I began to study the people of Earth. But the more I learned of this target planet, the more repulsed I became at the thought of the tyrannical Kree bespoiling this lovely world and enslaving its hapless population. I shared these thoughts with Una, who eventually came over to my point of view. Unfortunately, Jan Rog found us out and took measures to assure my death so that he would have a clear field for Una's affections. He set a trap for me, arranged it so I fell into the hands of the Kree's ancient enemies, the Akon. I escaped, but Una accidentally fell victim to Jan Rog's treachery. Heartbroken, I deserted the Kree. The Earthlings were far from perfect, but within their collective soul, I sensed the potential for greatness. I swore then I would defend them against my homeworld's dark appetite. So the old Captain Mar-Vell died, and the new Captain Marvel was born. I became Earth's cosmic protector and eventually aided my new homeworld in ridding itself of the threat of the evil Kree Empire. But the Kree were not the only stellar race that coveted Earth's natural riches. Time and again I was called upon to save my adopted home. I was greatly aided in this task by a being named Eon, who granted me the power of cosmic awareness. So the years passed, and with them passed what seemed like an endless line of villains and would-be conquerors. I began to tire. Fortunately, in recent years, others of great power have come along to relieve me in this eternal battle of good versus evil. Of late, I've been enjoying a state of semi-retirement on Titan, a satellite of Saturn. Titan is a wondrous place. Its outer husk is a barren, ammonia-enshrouded desert, but beneath its surface lies a futuristic paradise. This world is justly ruled by a demigod named Mentor and his son, Eros. I met them years ago when I had to battle Mentor's other son, the evil THANOS. He easily proved himself the most dangerous foe I ever faced. In fact, THANOS is the reason for this voyage. During our last conflict, THANOS was killed, turned to stone. He had sought to destroy our entire solar system as a sacrifice to death. His end was grim, but fitting. And here Star Fox, Eros, approaches Mar-Vell. And Mar-Vell here says, I'm preparing an audio file of my life and adventures for the Avengers and other Earth superheroes. As Eros, or Star Fox, says, you're kind of young to be writing your memoirs, aren't you? Perhaps, but you never know. I was with the Avengers when they towed Thanos' Ark out here past Pluto and abandoned it. They figured it wasn't likely to fall into the wrong hands this far out. Thanos ran his entire operation from here. This was his space fleet's control center. It was on this ship he created the weapon that was meant to destroy our sun. He also died here. It took the combined power of the Avengers, the Thing, Adam Warlock, Spider-Man, and myself to thwart Thanos' mad plans. It was Adam Warlock who finally struck Thanos down. It all happened here in these darkened halls. The blackness of oblivion nearly claimed us all. But at the last moment, a golden warrior saved us. So the light yet shines, and life continues. But all conflict has its price. This time it cost the universe the life of one of its heroes, Adam Warlock. And Marvel says it cost you a son. Thanos. He was born a demigod. He was power almost without end. He gave his heart to death. He died attempting to satisfy that dark, unrequited love. He was Thanos of Titan. He died encased in stone, as hard as his own heart. And as they are here at the site of Thanos' image, there's something wrong here. And his cosmic awareness makes him realize they are in danger. Mentor, Eros, beware. As these enemies come through saying, die infidels, and they are surrounded. Star Fox and Mentor fight back, with Mentor using lethal power. And that's how Titans fight. And then Mar-Vell realizes he must get involved, and as he says in the bottom here, by Hala, I had hoped to sit this fight out, but I guess the fates just aren't going to allow it. And as he fights on, he says, perhaps it's just as well. Mentor and Arrow sometimes forget the extent of their power. I may actually be doing these thugs a favor. The Titans might accidentally use more force than is necessary. Someone could get hurt, maybe even killed. Of course, there are those folks who claim a dead enemy is the best kind of enemy to have. But then, I've found that people who practice that philosophy usually have a hard time sleeping at night. And as the battle ends, and they pick up the pieces, you see Captain Mar-Vell here saying, I'm afraid the easy life is catching up with me. This sort of melee is getting to be too much for me. And then Star Fox realizes they need to figure out what just happened. And he says, why did you attack us? Who are you? We are the children of THANOS. He led us on a quest for glory. We fought and died by his side. His dreams are ours. Star Fox says, but his dreams are as dead as he. No, he but rests. He promised us a new life and would not let down those who honor his name. For he is the master and is omnipotent. He shall return, and the day of blood and glory will at last be upon us. So we await his resurrection. And they are in disbelief. They worship THANOS as a god and are waiting for him to come back from the dead. And Mentor is beside himself. You fools! Can you truly be so blind? Do you really not see my son for what he was? He was an evil lunatic who used you and would have sacrificed you without a second thought or remorse. His promise of a new life would have proven to be death and oblivion. But you morons repay his treachery with blind worship. You await his resurrection with prayers on your lips. Unbelievable. Well, wait no more, for I've come to take his body home and plan to destroy this ark, the last testament to his insane villainy. As Captain Mar-Vell collapses on the ground, coughing, Star Fox and Mentor don't know what has just happened, and they ask him, what happened to you? I'm all right now, just a little winded. Mentor is suggesting a metascan on their computer named Isaac, and Mar-Vell says no. Any objections? No. But I'm afraid Isaac will only be able to confirm what I already suspect. And he says, cosmic awareness can be turned inward. My body has no secrets I cannot unravel. What can be done? And he is examined here by Isaac, saying, you were right. Isaac confirms the findings of your cosmic senses. I'm sorry. I was sure my senses were right. I detected the disease a couple of weeks ago. I've studied a mountain of medical volumes, searching for a cure for my particular problem, and failed. I've not asked for your help because I've been unable to voice my fear. Mentor has knowledge of this. I can understand that. It's a terrible disease. We, on Titan, call it the inner decay. You Kree have named it the Black End. Earthmen call it cancer. Mar-Vell knows the source of this. It was about 7 years ago I was back on Earth. There was a thief called Nitro who had stolen a canister of nerve gas from the United States Army. During our battle, the gas canister broke open and its deadly contents threatened the lives of thousands who lived in the area. I had no choice. I had to reseal the tank with my bare hands. I realize now the nerve gas acted as a carcinogen in my body. The moment it touched me, I began to die. In fact, I probably should have died years ago. I believe the photonic power in my negaband wristlets grant me has fought off the cancers for a long time now. But the remission period is over. The disease resumes its march to darkness. And here he says, all I can do is hope, pray that you and Isaac can help me. But don't worry, I'm not expecting miracles from you. I'd welcome one, but I don't expect any. I figure my time has come at last. I never expected it to be like this, but I'm learning to live with it. And Mentor asks, does Elysius know? And Mar-Vell explains why he has not explained this to the love of his life, Elysius. He says, it's just that I remember how I felt when Una died. I remember the pain, the emptiness, the long, endless nights, the tears. This is not the legacy I wish to leave Elysius. I was hoping something would pop up, or that I'd wake up and find it was all a bad dream. But miracles and miracle cures are the food of fools, ridiculous opiates that blind one to the duties and responsibilities. And Mar-Vell speaks to Elysius silently. Continuing his autobiography, he says, Valhalla, how do you put your entire life into a few hours of tape? You can't. All you can do is talk and hope that what you're saying will mean something to someone, somewhere, someday. Now, where was I? Yes, I had deserted the Kree Empire, but less than a year later I was tricked into returning to Kreelar, capital of the Kree galaxy. There I stood before the Empire's all-powerful monarch, the supreme intelligence. But I didn't stand there for long. The fiend teleported me off to a strange dimension called the negative zone. It seemed I was doomed to spend the rest of my life floating in that cosmic wasteland. And I would have, if it hadn't been for the Earth youth named Rick Jones. For Rick found within a secret cavern the ancient negabands of the Kree. We found that once Rick put the bands on, he and I could communicate across that vast dimensional gap. But even better than that was the discovery that if Rick slapped the wristlets together, an even stranger interchange was possible. Rick found himself taking my place in the negative zone, while I found myself free once again to use my powers to aid mankind. Slamming my wristlets together reversed the process, much to Rick's relief. It was during one of my early leaves from the negative zone that I at last caught up with Jan Rog and made him pay for Una's murder. Finally, my Kree past was completely behind me. True, my new life, sharing time and space with an Earth teenager, was a bit hard to get used to. But our strange relationship allowed me to learn so many things about my new home, Earth, that I would have never realized alone. Rick and I became close friends, but Rick wasn't the only Earthling I came to know. There were also the Avengers. I usually worked alone, but occasionally I found myself fighting by their side, and I'm glad I did. They proved to be good comrades, and the stars only know how many times we needed each other's help. It's a dark universe out there with many a danger and nearly as many enemies. Like these. Some later became friends, but too few. I'm afraid I'm going to leave behind more enemies than any man should have had in one lifetime. But the one foe I'm glad I stood against also proved to be the most formidable, the mad warlord of Titan, THANOS. He worshipped death and wished to sacrifice all life in this universe as a love offering to his dark mistress. He began with an intergalactic army of thralls, and then there was that massive mind control experiment and the cosmic cube and so many other schemes and plans. In the end, it took nearly all of us to stop him. Now THANOS rests in a sub-basement tomb of this palace, and the universe sleeps easier at night. But I was talking about Rick, wasn't I? When Captain Mar-Vell checks in on his old friend, Rick Jones. "How you doing?" he says. "Not so well, Rick. In fact, that's what I've come to see you about. I want you to head over to Avengers Mansion tomorrow morning. I've arranged for a Dr. Blake to give you a complete physical checkup." And then he says, "Remember back when we were sharing bodies and we had a run-in with that lunatic legionnaire, Nitro?" And that happened in Captain Mar-Vell 34, by the way. Okay, and that happened in 1974. And Rick Jones explains his memory. "I also remember that leaking canister of nerve gas. That was a really close shave." And Mar-Vell explains, "Closer than you think, Rick. You'll recall I was exposed to that gas, and over the years that gas has affected me. I've got cancer, Rick, and it's inoperable. I've less than 4 months to live." And Rick says, "Cancer? It can't be. But it is, and that's why I want you to get this checkup. I don't think our symbiotic relationship would allow this disease to be passed on to you, but we shouldn't take any chances." And Rick is in disbelief. We see here that Mar-Vell is saying, "Mentor has begun giving me radiation treatments, and if those fail, he's devised a form of chemotherapy for me to try. But the trouble is, I'm a Kree. My biological system is different than someone from Titan or Earth. Because of this, Isaac only gives me a 0.09% chance for recovery without help from Kree medical scientists. And the Kree Empire is not about to help save the life of one they consider a traitor. I'm afraid it doesn't look too good for me." And Rick says, "So you're just going to give up and die? There's got to be some way to beat this, and I'm going to find it." "Rick, I'm sorry, I can't help it." Back on Titan, Captain Mar-Vell rejoins the love of his life, Elysius. "I just don't understand him. He was so angry, as if he were mad at me for having cancer." And Elysius acknowledges Rick's an orphan, isn't he? Of course, all his life, people have been leaving him behind. First his parents died. Then for a while he was partners with the Hulk, and later Captain America. Neither team ever really worked out. Now, I'm leaving him behind too. Poor Rick. Poor Rick. I guess it really is harder on those you leave behind. I'm sorry, Elysius. You know, I've been thinking a lot lately of all the people I've met in my lifetime. I've made quite a few friends along the way. I also keep remembering Adam Warlock. I was with him when he died. His was a hard and sad life, filled with pain and confusion. When death came for him, he welcomed it as a friend. I'll not do so. I've enjoyed this life. It's had its bad moments, but it's had far more good moments. I'm going to miss it. Rick Jones is looking for whatever help he can for his friend. And he says here, as if you can see. That's why I asked you particular Avengers here, you 7, Yellow Jacket, the Black Panther, Vision, Wonder Man, Beast, Iron Man, and Thor, all have special scientific or medical knowledge. I figure if anyone can save Captain Marvel's life, you can. With your powers and your brains, you should be able to find a cure for cancer in no time at all. And Panther says, now hold on a minute, Rick. And the rest weigh in. I don't think you understand the complexities of cancer research. This is a problem hundreds of research scientists have been working on for decades, says Iron Man. The Beast, Hank McCoy, saying, it's true we're good at what we do, but cancer research is completely new to us. Wonder Man, Simon Williams here saying, what I think the Beast is trying to say is, don't expect any miracles. After all, we're only human. Well, at least most of us are. And Rick isn't having that. He's not having it. And he thinks they're just not trying hard enough. And this group of Avengers is left wondering amongst themselves. A door slams and a room full of the world's most powerful beings falls silent. But it isn't the irrational outburst of a youth in pain that so humbles them. For if Rick Jones had remained, he would have learned that all within that room had already arranged to go to Titan, to work with Mentor in finding a cure for Marvel's malady. No, that which has so subdued them is a common question they each ask themselves. Why? Why haven't we used our genius, abilities, and powers to stamp out this dreaded killer before this? Each has his own answer. Each finds his own answer unsatisfactory. The days turn into weeks and the word spreads throughout the galaxy. A hero is dying. Once again, the darkness claims the light. The universe is soon to be a little emptier. The news is received with mixed feelings. Shock and dismay. Joyous triumph. Restrained passivity. Some remember him as a friend. To others, he was a comrade. Still to others, he meant even more. But all feel the loss. For he is Captain Marvel. And here, Captain Marvel is back on Titan. Mentor doing what he can to help. And he says here, Isaac has been receiving data transmissions from all over the galaxy. Many worlds have found a way to beat this killer, cancer. Mar-Vell replies by saying, but Isaac's been examining and testing each cure as it comes in and has found none of them can help my particular case, right? Yes, but every bit of data we get is another step toward finding a way to help you. Without the aid of these transmissions, Isaac wouldn't have been able to design that life support tunic you've got on. The Medi-system built into that tunic has reduced the degeneration process by some 20%. And Mar-Vell says, yes, I know. Plus, it's given me an excuse to get out of my old red and blue leotard. I'm afraid I've lost too much weight to look anything but silly in it. And he wants to walk around, and here he sees Eros, Star Fox. And he says, I'm glad I ran into you. I've been wanting to ask something of you. Someone I can depend on, I've known for a long time, about how you feel about Elysius. Ah, Star Fox. Well, he says, I know Eros, and it's not important now. Chances are that in a short time, I'll be gone, dead. Elysius is going to need someone she can talk to, confide in, trust. She's going to need a friend. I can't think of anyone who would be better at that than you. Will you? And Star Fox says, of course. Mar-Vell explains how his love began with Elysius. When we first met, Elysius was part of a mad doomsday legacy left behind by THANOS. Her job was to kill Drax the Destroyer and myself. Fortunately, I was able to reach out to her, convince her that she should join forces with us. With her help, we were able to thwart the evil plans of our partners, the villainous Chaos and Stellarax. It was only a matter of time before our love surfaced. We toured Earth together. It was a honeymoon of sorts. I loved her more with each passing day. I never knew such happiness. We finally decided to settle down here on Titan. We made plans and talked of having children. But now our plans are yesterday's dreams, and our children are what might have been. For death is knocking at my door, and not all my power can keep him out. It would have been a good life, Elysius. I'm sorry. And then the pain. Overwhelming pain. It burns. It tears. It twists and bends. It kills. It kills slowly, a little piece at a time, and then it fades. Yes, the pain comes and it goes, but the anger always remains. Alien invaders, supervillains, monsters, mutants, they all tried, but none of them could kill me. I fought them all and I won. I survived. Who would have thought in the end it'd be my own body that would turn on me and do me in? But what are you carrying on so about, Mar-Vell? It's not as if you've been singled out for this. Everyone has to die someday. Or did you think you were unique? Yes, I guess that's what it's all about. I just never figured it would happen to me. Deep down inside me, I felt that those special things that make me who I am would just live forever. It's hard to accept that the world is going to go on without me. Damn. And our other heroes are hard at work. We're running into the same problem you did, says Doctor Strange. Our every move is blocked by the same insurmountable obstacle, Mar-Vell's negabands. These wristlets charge his body with the photonic energy that kept his cancer in check all these years. But during that time, his disease has mutated, gained an immunity to those photonic energies. As Reed Richards continues, as the cancer spread, the captain's body came to depend more and more on the Negaband's power to sustain life. Now it's gotten to the point where I doubt Mar-Vell could live more than a few hours without those wristlets. And the trouble is, those photonic powers also block or dissipate any efforts we make at getting to the disease. We've tried everything from radiation to sorcerous spells, and nothing seems to work. In other words, the one thing that's keeping Mar-Vell alive is also keeping us from curing him. Star Fox runs in with news that Mar-Vell has collapsed and he's been taken to the master chamber. Let us make every moment count. As Elysius sits with her man, the long, hard vigil that all lovers fear begins. She weeps. He joins her. But Rick's tears are mixed with the tumultuous emotions that haunt his sleep. Titan, a moon of Saturn, drifts through space and weeks of time, waiting. Then, one day, they begin to arrive. The first ships come from Earth. But they are soon joined by more advanced and exotic ether cutters from outside our solar system. All crafts are immediately identified and cleared for landing except one. But finally, even that ship is granted clearance, once certain guarantees of proper conduct are assured by a passenger on board. They are the family of Superman. Theirs is the task of protecting a universe they call home. Many have fought beside Mar-Vell. A few have fought against him, but now all think of him as a brother who is dying. They've come to Titan to say goodbye to one of their own. And Elysius at his side. You know, that's the most frustrating part of this whole business of death. There's so much I don't know about you, and so little time left for me to find it all out. But the time we've had has been good. I've never loved anyone as I have you. And she says, I feel the same, but I never dreamt it would end like this for us. But perhaps this way is best. I always figured you would go before I did. Your type of lifestyle doesn't lend itself to longevity. But I feared your end would be violent. I dreaded you dying alone on some distant planet surrounded by enemies. At least this way I can be with you to the end. I want to share every moment of life with you I can squeeze out. I hope that doesn't sound too selfish. No, not at all. I think it's beautiful. And the minds outside continue to work. Another failure. Every avenue we explore on Isaac's Medi-Simulator is blocked by that blasted photonic energy. There must be a way to get around it, says T'Challa. Yes, but how? Perhaps a combination of treatments. Meanwhile, the Thing and Spider-Man and the Human Torch in the background are at Mar-Vell's side. And as you see, the Thing is telling stories to a very quiet, unusually quiet Spider-Man who says, I Excuse me. And he leaves. It's too much for him. But Mar-Vell understands. Ben, let him go. Death touches us all in different ways. Some barely feel its passing. Others, it strikes right in the face. And you see here next what Spidey says. Beast asks, Spidey, are you all right? Yeah, sure, just a little shaken. It's all just a bit too much. I mean, this just can't be happening. Captain Marvel is one of us. He's a full-blown card-carrying superhero. We die from bullets and bombs. Not from something like cancer. It just can't be. I'm afraid it is. In case you haven't noticed, beneath most of these fancy costumes and flashy powers hide mortal men and women. None of us have much of a say on how we're going to end this life. Rick Jones finally arrives and says he got a lift from Captain America and Hercules, and he hitchhiked basically from Earth to Titan. And he apologizes for being a fool, as so he says. And their reunion is an emotional one. Others arrive, including Drax the Destroyer and his daughter Moondragon. And Drax also introduces General Zed-Rau of the Skrull Empire, much to Rick Jones's shock. But the purpose here is different. The Skrull General salutes Captain Mar-Vell and says, "May your passing be swift and your afterlife reward great." And Rick makes this observation. The Skrulls, your worst enemies, give you a medal. But what do your own people do to honor you? Night falls upon Titan. And Eros, Star Fox, arrives and says, "Father, I've bad news. Mar-Vell has fallen into a coma." Our heroes gather at Mar-Vell's bedside at midnight. Saying, "He was the best among us. I would have given anything to have saved him. It's all so unfair. So unfair." As they gather around, and the visage of death floats above. And something is happening here, as the face of Mar-Vell turns into another familiar face, that of Thanos. And what does this mean? In a sub-basement tomb in the midst of death, life. He hears the call and must answer. His goal lies within. Nothing must stand in his way. Nothing. As Thanos appears in the room of the fallen Captain Marvel. Thanos says, "I've always had great respect for you, Mar-Vell. You have always been my greatest foe, my arch nemesis. For one such as you, death should not come gnawing like some vermin. For you, death should be a glorious event. So rise, Captain Marvel." And Captain Marvel is whole again, saying, "The greatest minds of the universe have labored for months trying to save me, but they failed. Then you just come along and wave your hand." And look here, the room is changing as Thanos leads him to the heart of your universe, Captain Mar-Vell. It is the soul of your reality. It pumps the life's blood of your existence. It is all you love, and it is about to be denied to you. For I have come to destroy it, because I am Thanos, and because you are Captain Mar-Vell. Your job is to try and stop me. And Mar-Vell says, then stop you I will, madman. I doubt it, says Thanos. Mar-Vell doing battle, but hands reaching from the earth trying to pull from below. You've tried this trick before, Thanos. It didn't work then, and it won't work now. I didn't want to make this too easy for me. Have no fear of that, villain. As Thanos says, yes, death should never be easy. It must be earned. For life itself is not but the first step to eternity, and sets its tone. Your time is spent, your fate is cast. So it begins, so it ends. Look now upon your past, bear witness to the harvest of death you have reaped. As Mar-Vell exclaims, old foes of mine who have died, returning from the grave. Ah, returning to show you the way, Mar-Vell. No, the light and life have always been my gods. My pride is that of the never vanquished. If I am to die, I shall die fighting. Very well then, we'll do it the hard way. We'll chip one piece of life away at a time. It will surely be painful. But that is what life is truly about. A continuous series of pains. You must realize this. You must come to see the truth. We will force you to accept our reality. Never. Thanos is not finished. So you refuse to acknowledge death's kind mercy, but even you must accept its inevitability. Why should I? And Thanos says, because its nature is universal. You may strive against it. You may even close a few doors to it. But in the end, nothing can halt its cool touch. It is shadow. It is wind. It is inescapable and unrestrainable. And Mar-Vell says, no, I refuse to accept that. As long as there is life, there is hope. There's nothing in the universe that cannot be overcome. And Thanos says, would you challenge the abstract? Would you deny the infinite? And Mar-Vell would. Then be prepared to find that your victories are the stuff of dreams, illusions. As Thanos shatters like a statue, saying, for that is all that is left of me in this plane. Like all men, I'm finite and accept it. It's an illusion. It's an illusion. But your arrogance is noble, but futile, just, but useless. It is the way of man, the only way we know how to play the game. Illusion. But the contest is over, and she comes for you. Are you ready for her? As Mar-Vell says, as ready as I guess I'll ever be. She is the bridge to eternity. Her caress is peace. Do not fear her, for she is merely that which awaits us all. It's not that I fear her. It's just that I no longer need the illusion. The kiss of death. So it ends. As his heart slowly stops. Is that all there is to it? A kiss and I'm beyond the veil? I expected more. There is more. It awaits us. Take her hand. She will lead us on our journey. She will show us that this is not the end. Only the beginning. He's gone. He's gone. The death of Captain Mar-Vell. Captain Mar-Vell is one of the rare characters in comics that has stayed dead. And to die of something like cancer on a deathbed, quite remarkable and quite unusual in its own way, especially for a cosmic hero. And it's interesting, in his death, he remains immortal. I read this comic a few days ago, and it has left its mark on me. I hope that on my last day on Earth, what I read in this might help me journey to the other side. There's times when I look up at the night sky, at the stars, and I think, maybe when our lives end, the light that leaves our body goes up to the stars, the infinite, infinite stars, to give life and nourishment to the universe. This is the pop culture cosmonaut. See you in the stars someday.